Hey guys, this is the video lesson for lesson 3.5 and we are dividing whole numbers. Now this is the video lesson, this is going to be the partial quotient. So if you do division partial quotient method, this is the video you watch. If you do the traditional method, then you want to watch the other one because that one's for you. So remember, only watch this if you're partial quotient. So I'm going to start with number 1 and I have to figure out 351 divided by 9. So I'm going to get it set up, 351 divided by 9. And I'm going to come up with my helper facts. So remember, it's always going to be times 1, times 2, and times 5 are the easiest helpers. And the reason we use those is because if you know 9 times 1, you know 9 times 10, you know 9 times 100. 9 times 2 is 18, so 9 times 20 is 180, and 9 times 200 is 1800. Which we're not going to have to go that high, actually, because this one only goes up to 351. So, and 9 times 5 is 45, and 9 times 50 is 450. So these are actually just the helpers, but you can use other ones, which you're going to possibly see me use other problems. So we're going to start with 9 into 351. So right away, I see 450 is too big. I'm not going to use that. But here is one thing I do know. I know, for example, that 9 times 3 is 27. So I'm going to add that to my helpers. 9 times 3 is 27. And I also know that 9 times 30 is 270. All right, so let's get ready for partial quotient. 9 out of all of my facts over here can go into 351 at least 30 times. So I'm going to write the 30 here. And 30 times 9 is 270. So I'm going to subtract. I'm down to 81. Now, looking here at my facts, 9 doesn't go 10 times into 81, but if you know, for example, 9 times 9 is 81, you'll get 81, subtract 0. Now to get your answer, just add those two together, you're going to get 39. So 351 divided by 9 is 39. Now I'll show you, let me move down and we'll go to example 2. Alright, so now we're on to example 2. We have 878 divided by 31, and I started with some of my helper facts. So if you look here, I have times 1, times 2, and times 5. And if you know times 1, you know times 10. If you know times 2, you know times 20. And times 50 is going to be too high, so we don't even need it. So I'm looking to see how many times 31 can go into 878 without going over. So right away, I see my biggest one here. It's going to go at least 20 times. Oops, sorry about that. At least 20 times, and that's going to get you 620. So I'm going to subtract. I'm down to 258. Now, of the remaining facts, 620 is too big, and 310 is too big. So we're not going to use that. So I am going to use this one. So 31 is going to go into 258 5 times, which is 155. And I'm down to 103. Now, of the remaining facts, I could use this one. But you know what? I'm going to try to get this one done a little bit quicker. If I know 31 times 2 is 62, I know 31 times 3 is 93. So you don't have to just stick with the facts you have written down. So if 31 times 3 is 93, I subtract and I get 10, which is smaller than 31. So my answer is going to be add 20 plus 5 plus 3. That adds up to 28, remainder 10. Or what we want you to write is 28 and write it as a fraction, 10 over 31. 28 and 10 31st. Either one of those is okay for now, but try to write it with the fraction remainder. All right. So there are the two examples. One was a 1-digit number, one was a 2-digit number using partial quotient. So we're going to go down and we're going to look at some of the practice problems. So here is what I want you to do with the practice problems for A and B. I want you to try A and B on your own. Remember, hopefully you're doing partial quotient if you're watching this video. When you're done, so pause the video, do A and B, and when you're done, watch the video. Remember, with partial quotient, we may do it differently, but the goal is to get to the same answer. All right, pause it now, restart when you're done. Go. Okay, so let's start this one out. So I have 768 divided by 8. And I'm going to do some helper facts. So I know, for example, 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times 10 is 80. 8 times 100 will be too big. I know 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times 20 is 160. I know 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times, 50 is 400. And I could add another one. So I know 8 times 9 is 72. So 8 times 90 is 720. All right, so now let me get started. So 8 is going to go into 768 at least 90 times. Now remember, you might not have used 90, but I'm trying to do this as quick as I can. So it's going to go 90 times, which is 720. When I subtract, I'm down to 8 and down to 48. Now I know it's not, even though it's not one of my facts over here, I know 8 goes into 48 6 times, which is 48, subtract 0. So my answer is going to be 96 after I add those together. So for A, you should have 96. Now for B, I'm dividing by 16. So this one, I see 318 divided by 16. I know 16 times 1 is 16. 16 times 10 is 160. 16 times 2 is 32. 16 times 20 is 320. And 16 times, I don't know, what one do I want to do? Times 5 is 80. I'm not going to do times 50 because that's way too big. So looking here, already 320 is a little bit too big. So I'm going to go with my next biggest one, 16 times 10. So 16 is going to go 10 times into 318, which is 160. I'm going to subtract. And I'm down to 158. Now 16 can't go 10 more times, so I'm going to use the 5. 16 times 5 is 80. Subtract. 15 minus 8 is 7. I'm down to 78. So 5 is too big. So looking here, I know 16 times 2 is 32, but you know what I also know? I know 16 times 3 is 48. So if I subtract, I'm down to 30. And 16 can only go one time into that. So it's going to go once, which is 16. Subtract. I'm down to 14. So add these up. 10 plus 5 is 15. 16, 17, 18, 19. I get 19, remainder 14. Or 19 and 14 sixteenths, which rounds to 19, or not rounds, reduces to 19 and 7/8. So 19 and 7/8 or 19 remainder 14 is okay for this one. All right, hopefully you had those right. Let's go on to the next page. Now on this page, let's see, I'm not going to go over example 3 because it's not that different from the other ones, but I am going to go over example 4. So in example 4, it says the average person has 1,460 dreams a year. What is the average number of dreams a person has each night? Now you have to know there's 365 nights in a year. So what that means is you're splitting up your dreams to the average number each night. You're splitting it up in 365 nights. So I'm going to do a little bit of division here. So let me get ready. Okay, so here's where I'm ready. I'm going to do 2 helper facts here. So 365 times 1 is 365. So 365 times 2, I'm going to figure out that's 10, 13, 730. So I'm really just going to use this fact. So I know 365 goes 2 times, which is 730. When I subtract, 14 minus 7 is 7, I'm down to 730. So 365 goes 2 more times into that, which is 730. Down to 0, guess what? That's pretty quick. Your answer is 4. So remember, this is a word problem, so we need a label. What is the average number of dreams a person has each night? So my answer will be 4 dreams on average. All right, so that's example 4. Now we're going to go down and we're going to try a practice problem below. Okay, so we're going to work on just E. Don't worry about C and D for now. So for problem E, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to read it first. It says, to promote its opening weekend, a water park gave the local middle school 1,050 free tickets. Okay? The middle school has 350 students. Each student will receive the same number of tickets. How many tickets will each student receive? So we have to figure out how many tickets each student will get. So here's what's happening, is they are taking the 1,050 tickets and splitting them among the 350 students equally. That's how you know it's division. So my division problem is going to be 1,050 divided by 350 students. Now, as far as my helper facts, I'm just going to do 2. So I know 350 times 1 is 350, right? You don't even have to write that down if you don't want. And 350 times 2 is 700. So I'm just going to use those 2 to start with. I could always do another one in a little bit. So 350 goes at least 2 times into 1,050, and that's 700. When I subtract, 10 minus 7 is 3, I'm down to 350. And guess what? 350 goes 1 time into 350. Subtract 0. So add those together, my answer is 3. So how many tickets will each student receive? They are going to receive 3 tickets. Okay. All right, now let's go on to the next page. So we'll show you here. Actually, you know what? Instead of going over example 5, here's what I'd rather do. I'd rather you get a little more practice doing division on your own, since I kind of did E with you. So I want you to do problem C by yourself. So pause the video, do problem C, and when you're done, restart it and see if we get the same answer. Go. All right. So you should have done this problem by yourself, and now you should be watching it. And I already have my first 3 helper facts ready to go, times 1, times 2, and times 5. And remember, that also means times 10. Just add a 0 to 56 is 560. 56 times 20 is 1,120. And 56 times 50 would be 2,800. I just went and added a 0 to each of those answers. So to start off, I'm going to start with this one. So 56 goes at least 50 times, which is 2,800. Subtract 1, 2, do some borrowing. 13 minus 8 is 5, and 3 minus 2 is 1. I'm down to 1521. So looking at my helper facts, too big. But I see 56 times 20 should work out. So 56 goes 20 times, which is 1120. Subtract 1, 0, I'm down to 401. Now, of those, I see times 5 should work out. So 56 times 5 is 280. Subtract. I'm down to 121. So 56 times 2 is 112. Subtract. I'm down to 9, and that's less than 56. So put that together. 50, 70, 75, 77. I have 77, remainder 9, or 77 and 9/56 if you write it as a fraction. Either one of those is okay. All right, anyway, you're done with me. We're not going to go over the example on the next page. I do know, though, if you were absent, you probably have some of these problems down here to be working on, so check your absent sheet. And if you have any questions, as always, ask me. Thanks for watching, guys.